Welcome again for Part 8 of the Legal Professional and Ethical Framework in Prescribing. Define negligence. Negligence, failure to meet the standard of care expected, resulting in harm. Bolam test, 1957. A practitioner is not negligent if their actions align with a responsible body of professional opinion. Bolitho test, 1997 adds that such opinions must also have a logical basis. Bolam v. Friern Hospital Management Committee, 1957. This landmark case established the Bolam test, which is used to determine the standard of care in medical negligence cases. Case details. Mr. Bolam, a voluntary patient, underwent electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, without muscle relaxants or restraints. During the procedure, he suffered severe injuries, including fractures, and subsequently sued the hospital for negligence. Legal outcome. The court ruled that a healthcare provider is not negligent if their actions align with a responsible body of medical opinion, even if other professionals would have acted differently. In Mr. Bolam's case, expert witnesses testified that not using relaxants or restraints was standard practice at the time, leading the court to dismiss the claim. This case set a precedent for evaluating medical negligence based on professional standards rather than personal opinions. Key arguments and judgment in Bolam v. Friern Hospital Management Committee, 1957. Arguments of negligence. Mr. Bolam claimed the hospital was negligent for 1. Not administering muscle relaxants. 2. Failing to use restraints during the procedure. 3. Not informing him of the potential risks of the treatment. Judgment. The court ruled against the negligence claim, citing expert testimony. Many medical professionals at the time opposed the use of relaxants and restraints, as these practices could also pose risks, e.g., fractures from manual restraints. Standard practice. It was common in the profession not to disclose minor risks unless patients specifically asked about them. The court concluded that the hospital's actions were consistent with the standard of care expected in the medical community, leading to the establishment of the Bolam test, which evaluates negligence based on adherence to responsible medical opinion. Bolitho v. City and Hackney Health Authority, 1997. Case overview. This case further developed the principles of the Bolam test, focusing on the standard of care expected from medical specialists and its connection to causation. Facts. The plaintiff's son was hospitalized for respiratory issues under the care of Dr. Horn. Despite calls from nurses, Dr. Horn failed to attend to the patient and delegated the case to a junior doctor, Dr. Roger, who also did not assess the patient. The lack of timely intervention led to complications, resulting in severe brain damage and the patient's death. The defendants argued their actions were consistent with a responsible body of medical opinion, as per the Bolam test. Significance. This case reinforced that medical decisions must not only follow standard practices but also have a logical and justifiable basis, as assessed by the courts. It highlighted the importance of causation in determining negligence. The House of Lords ruled that the decision not to intubate must be based on a logical assessment of risks versus benefits, ensuring the conclusion is defensible. Judges are allowed to choose between expert opinions and reject one if it is logically indefensible, meaning the court, not the profession, determines the law. However, Lord Brown Wilkinson noted that a practice aligned with expert opinion would only be considered negligent in exceptional circumstances. The Bolam and Bolitho tests together form the foundation for assessing medical negligence. According to these tests, a doctor is not deemed negligent if they follow a responsible body of medical opinion, as long as the court finds that opinion to be logically sound. The British legal system is adversarial, focusing on establishing fault. The claimant, patient, must prove three key elements. 1. Duty. The defendant, practitioner or trust, owed the claimant a duty of care. 2. Breach. The defendant breached that duty. 3. Injury. The claimant suffered a compensable injury as a result. It is unclear whether a nurse, pharmacist, or AHP taking on a role previously performed by doctors will be judged against the standard of care expected of a reasonable doctor or their own professional standard. However, inexperience is not a valid defense. Nettleship v. Weston, 1971. The standard of care expected is that of a reasonably skilled person practicing their profession, Wilshire v. Essex H.A., 1986. Nettleship v. Weston, 1971, 2 QB 691 is an English Court of Appeal case regarding breach of duty in negligence claims. The court considered the standard of care applicable to a learner driver compared to that of an experienced driver. In this case, Mr. Nettleship, the plaintiff, agreed to teach Mrs. Weston, the defendant, to drive in her husband's car after acquiring the necessary insurance. During a lesson, the defendant lost control of the car, causing an accident that injured the plaintiff. The defendant argued that the plaintiff knew of her lack of skill and should not be held to the same standard as an experienced driver. The Court of Appeal ruled that applying a lower standard of care to a learner driver because the instructor was aware of their inexperience would lead to inconsistent standards. For example, it would suggest that an inexperienced doctor could owe a lower standard of care to a patient if the patient was aware of the doctor's lack of experience. Instead, the standard of care for a learner driver was set at the same level as that for an experienced and skilled driver. The court also held that the instructor was partially responsible for the accident since he had partial control of the car and, due to contributory negligence, could only recover half of his damages. In summary, the defendant was in breach of duty because a junior doctor is held to the same standard of care as a qualified doctor. However, the burden of proof lies with the claimant, and since the claimant failed to prove that the doctor's actions caused the child's blindness, the appeal was allowed. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it. See you soon.